Donald Trump, one of the most historically unpopular presidents in American history. What did the Democratic Party do to bail out the Republican Party after falling behind the MAGA code? Yep. What do they do in order to revive the Republican Party after losing to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? That's how down bad the Republican Party is. They committed genocide.
Right. Yep.
You guys see how both parties work together to keep one strong, and then as the Democrats committed genocide and Democrats become weaker than ever because of that, Donald Trump takes charge and he completely refuses to release the Epstein list, continues Biden's policy in Ukraine. So his job to demoralize the MAGA base now. Oh, I'm glad you pulled this up. Go ahead, Cooper. I'll let you present this. I'm glad you showed the story.
I was terrified by this. By the way, this is a survey and done by Hebrew University. It says a strong majority of Jewish Israelis indicate support for their government's deliberate ongoing war crimes of ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza. A poll released from Hebrew University in Jerusalem in early June reveals that roughly 75% of Jewish Israelis agree with the statement that there are no innocent people in Gaza, where, at least since October 7, there resided 1 million children. A report on the poll from the Israeli publication Haaretz revealed that 64% of the nation's overall citizenry agreed with the statement, while also stipulating that among Arab Israeli responders, 92% disagreed. Since 17.2% of Israeli citizens are Arab, the figure for Jewish Israelis equates to approximately 75%.
Literally insane. Everything that the Zionists tell you about Hamas, everything that they tell you about Hamas and the Palestinian people is straight up projection. Because I'm an American, I can tell you guys exactly what they say. The Zionists and these Christian Zionists, they tell Americans that Palestinians are brainwashed from a young age to hate Jews. It's the exact opposite. These Israelis, many of them are irredeemable. You have these Zionists who are brainwashed from a young age. You know, the same thing they tell us about Hamas, the same thing they tell us about Palestinians. They go through these religious schools and they are brainwashed from an early age to adopt Jewish supremacy and to hate Arabs. That's something that is extremely important for their society. So under a potential two-state solution, Palestinians are supposed to be neighbors with these people. And one thing I want to say, and we don't have to dive too much into it, but it's something that I've been exploring, because I do think it's very important for us to keep the issue of Israel-Palestine an issue of settler colonialism and imperialism. But there also has to be a side conversation. And if you put back on me on, that's fine. But what is Judaism doing to these people? Like, at what point does the Jewish institutions, your ideology is questioned? Because even though I may have some disagreements with them, Dr. Cornel West is an example of a great Christian. You know what I mean? Even though I may not share these beliefs, I can respect Muslims who have amazing beliefs. I can respect Jewish people. I can respect religious people when their beliefs lead them to the best for humanity. But when I see an institution and an ideology that produces millions of genocidal monsters, are we not allowed to question what the hell they're teaching? Are we not allowed to question what the hell is in their book? that I've seen a lot of questionable things about. Now, to be clear, guys, I do believe that the imperialism, settler colonialism should be our forefront, and it should be our main argument. But man, I'm completely turned off Judaism. I'm gonna say it. I believe that there's something toxic in there. Maybe it went off the rails. Maybe they was misled and led off the cliff by a corrupt leader. That always happens. Maybe you can analyze history and see what went wrong. But to me, it's clear that it's some sort of barbaric ideology that normalized devaluing the lives of humanity. But I understand if you guys don't want to go down that route.
You know, Nick, I personally not really versed about religions, but I have seen countless footage, let's say, for a long time. When I was a kid, for example, the Intifada, which now it's a terrifying term. I will just give me 10 seconds and I will come back because it's very important.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just keep talking for you guys. I think it's very important for us to not, and this is what the Nick Fuentes and these people do. They make it about the Jews. It's not about the Jews. It's because we're going to get into this a little bit later. There's Muslim Zionism, because you have all these Muslims in the Middle East who enable the Israeli project. Then you have the Christian Zionists in the United States that is the largest driver of Zionism. So, guys, I'm not making it about religion because it's supported by the entirety of these large Western religions who support the Zionist state. What I'm talking about, because it's not about religion generally, is what the hell are they teaching in Judaism? What the hell are they teaching in these Israeli schools that is leading to these genocidal thoughts? But go ahead, Kavor. I'll pass it back to you.
No, for example, when I was, there are always moments or footage which radicalize you, right? So you get really angry. And imagine you are a child, 12 years old child, and watching this footage on your TV outlets back then, Israeli soldiers carrying stones, rocks, and breaking the bones of Palestinian children on footage. And then they allow their German shepherds, the dogs, to go after children and bite them. So, like, you see that one side is throwing basically stones on the Israeli occupation forces, and the other side is breaking their bones. They have guns, they have bulldozers, they have dogs, etc. So you see, like, I'm born and raised in Syria. I'm an ethnic Armenian. I'm Christian. And I don't see this as a religious conflict. But when you see what's happening, you have to ask yourself, why? Why are they acting in this barbaric way? What is the source of this barbarism? You know, it's really heart-itching to see this type of footage. And now that the Gaza onslaught started, right? And especially that, oh, you live in Germany, like I live in Germany. And it's very difficult here to show any sympathy, human sympathy, to the Palestinians. Like, people are losing their jobs, their bank accounts are being closed, they're getting sanctioned by the EU for speaking up. Now, in the United States, there are little bit more, let's say, freedom of speech compared to Europe. In the United States, it's still some free speech exists there. But what I am noticing is what Trump is doing is dividing his own base, right? In the MAGA base or in the pro-Trump base, you have people, considerable number of people are opposing Israel. And Trump is like going against them. He's even attacking some of the people who supported him in the past for now becoming more, let's say, anti-Israeli. What Trump is doing definitely going to change the outcome of the next elections. Like, when you see this situation in the United States, Trump MAGA base is being cracked. Trump is showing himself probably the most Zionist president in the history of the United States. What could happen in 3 years or 2.5 years when we have new elections? Can some new candidate emerge from this MAGA base, who is more anti-Israeli, let's say, or let's say a little bit in the middle, or the system is rigged and it's a hopeless situation where whoever comes, the system will swallow the candidate and they will force him into the system and he will be forced to follow this type of foreign policy.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm post-duopoly. I'm a strong believer of building third parties that advocate unapologetically for the working class. I think we should have an anti-imperialist, pro-working class, populist third party. And what I'm doing is picking up the people who are falling off the pendulum. What we need in the United States is a third-party movement that grasps people who fall off the pendulum. What do I mean by that? the United States electoral system is essentially pro wrestling. It is as fake as a WWE. And it's weird, like whenever you see people talk about electoral politics as if it matters. Can you imagine if someone was talking about a match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, but they were talking about it like it was a real boxing match? Like, can you imagine if someone talking about Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, but they was commentating like it was a UFC heavyweight real fight? That is what people sound like to me when they talk about electoral politics as if it's real. So let me explain to you guys how this system actually works. It's very important for the two-party system for the pendulum to keep swinging. It is bad when one faction of the ruling class is in party for one time, for too long. So when you have George W. Bush Jr. in charge, his job was to destabilize the Middle East, continue to plan to invade Iraq, invade many countries in the Middle East. His plan to start the imperial action, even if he's massively unpopular. So George W. Bush starts the Iraq war, destabilizes the Middle East, and he becomes so unpopular, the United States elects a black guy named Barack Obama. So Barack Obama is in a unique position where he can radically change United States politics. He has the political will, the political capital, and he won the election at that point, one of the biggest margins of all time. But what do he do? He bail out the banks in Wall Street, collapse black wealth, and then expands George W. Bush's 2 war to 7. He extends the Patriot Act, extends George W. Bush's tax cuts. Essentially, and in his own words, governs like a Republican. So what's the result of Barack Obama doing this? An entire generation leaves the Democratic Party. We were pissed off with the Democratic Party. So what happens after that? It's just like WWE. The storylines never end. It's fake as shit. You get this guy who the establishment propped up, who was on The Apprentice. And they know he's loyal, Kavor. I know a lot of people may be nervous about whether he's anti-establishment or not, but don't worry. He married his daughter off to a Zionist. His daughter married Jared Kushner. So he showed his blood loyalty to the establishment. So they can let him be president. Donald Trump becomes president, and he fucks shit up the first term. Become completely unpopular. Just when you think the Democrats couldn't recover from the Barack Obama disappointment, Donald Trump comes in and rehabilitates the Democratic Party, and Joe Biden wins. So then Donald Trump, one of the most historically unpopular presidents in American history, what did the Democratic Party do to bail out the Republican Party after falling behind the MAGA code? What do they do in order to revive the Republican Party after losing to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? That's how down bad the Republican Party is. They committed genocide.
Right. Yep.
You guys see how both parties work together to keep one strong? And then as the Democrats committed genocide and Democrats become weaker than ever because of that, Donald Trump takes charge and he completely refuses to release the Epstein list, continues Biden's policy in Ukraine. So his job to demoralize the MAGA base now. So I know that was a long spill, Kavor, but what do we do in this situation? Go back to what I said in the beginning of this rant. Our job is to take people who fall off the pendulum. So every time there are these pendulum swings, whenever there's this betrayal, it's our job as revolutions to catch people and bring them down off of that pendulum so they don't keep going back and forth. So if you're one of the people who was disappointed by Joe Biden, my job was to grab your ass and bring you to the populist left. And there's many people who became that because they were disenfranchised and they was upset over Biden genocide. Now we're in a position where we're grabbing those MAGA people who are pissed off over Donald Trump. And there's a lot of people upset with me because I talked to Jake Shields, but that's exactly what I was doing. Jake Shields voted for Trump twice, and his audience was upset with Trump. So it's our job as people who are serious revolutionaries who want to build their party. We're now grabbing the MAGA people off that pendulum. Stop falling for this two-party game and get serious about revolution. So sorry for that long spill, but that's how I feel about U.S. politics. It's a giant fake-ass game that people who are serious about improving people's material life, we got to take advantage of the fact that these politicians will inevitably betray their supporters, and we got to be there for them and offer them a solution.
Indeed. Just a quick comment about Jake Shields. He also had me on his show a few months ago during the regime change operation. And I'm grateful because we are on different sides in politics, let's say on the spectrum, as I mentioned at the beginning. But he was a good listener. And he invited me and he said, I'm genuinely interested to learn. Come and educate me and educate my audience. So I respect people who are genuinely, let's say, interested in listening to other points of view, especially that he should be considered one of the patriotic American citizens, right? And then if you go back 20 years in time, people like Jake Shields were like, we're going to occupy Iraq and we're going to, carrying the American flag. But things are also changing in the United States. And this is very noticeable to the extent that now that the issue of Palestine and Gaza is essential in the discourse of the political discussions and conversations online and also in the streets of the United States.